Welcome to the Let's Talk About Love, Sex, and Infidelity podcast with your host, Todd Krieger. Todd has over 35 years of experience working with thousands of couples as a licensed therapist in his private practice. Todd shares his insights on this show. It's never too early to divorce-proof your marriage or too late to heal yourselves and have the relationship you truly want.
Hi, everybody. This is Todd Krieger, and today I want to talk to you about why an affair feels like a life-or-death trauma to the person who was betrayed. Now, of course, some of it's evident. Of course, your partner cheated on you, just discovered it. It's devastating. It is. And you're feeling it because of what happened. But what makes it feel so life or death as well is that oftentimes it wakes up the wounded parts of your own past. Again, not saying that what happened isn't real. It's real, and it happened because of what that person did and that betrayal. But it also wakes up what we call exiles from the past. So I've been talking about internal family systems and working with EMDR together to help people through trauma. And betrayal trauma is such a painful trauma. And so what the IFS, internal family systems, it's a wonderful approach that helps you see that you're made up of a healthy self, that is this compassion, all these 8 C's. I never remember all 8, but basically compassionate, courageous, clear, connected, calm, creative, and a few more. There's that part of you, but there's that self that you have. But we all have these other parts of us. There's these wounded parts that happened when we were younger. It could be from something that we were told over and over again, or even just once at a real vulnerable time from a parent. It could be, of course, being abandoned. It could be being told you weren't good enough. It could be attachment issues. It could be many things. But we get this trauma, this wounded part of us that leads us to a negative belief or cognition, like I'm not safe or I'm not good enough. And it follows us everywhere we go, even if it's sometimes activated more than others. And we exile that part of us because we have to live in a world where we're not living in the wound. So we call it the exile part because we exile to a part of our psyche. And then we have these protective parts of us that can protect us, the manager that keeps us like functional and what we have to do and keeps that part of us hidden. Or when that other part starts to flare up, we can distract ourselves by acting out in some way. And that's called the firefighter part. So for the person who's betrayed, these exiles get activated. So yes, it's a pain because of what happened in the present tense, but it also could trigger all the other doubts you had about yourself, all the other times you were abandoned or made to feel like you weren't important, or maybe other beliefs that you carried around because of other people and how you were treated, the interpersonal trauma that you experienced. We all experience that one form of it or another. So EMDR helps process the parts of you that internal family systems, that you identify using internal family systems. So what you start to recognize through this recovery of the betrayal is you recognize parts of you that have been activated because of the trauma of betrayal. And these parts that have been protecting you become unburdened. And ultimately we get to the wound that you could use bilateral stimulation, which is stimulating both sides of the brain of EMDR, that enables your brain to process trauma that was stuck in time so that you can move through it. So EMDR helps you process those parts that IFS identifies, especially the wound. And the wounded part of you has memories. And that's what EMDR does. It helps you process those memories. So ultimately, the person who's betrayed doesn't start trusting a husband or a wife or a committed partner who hasn't yet earned the trust. But what we could do is at least heal you from the past. Now, sometimes when I'm working with a couple where there has been infidelity, that I tend to make sure that the relationship is becoming safer. And I can talk about this in this video, but it really entails that the person who betrayed is taking a much better look at themselves and looking at their own parts. Right now, I'm focusing on the person who's betrayed. And so that it gives the betrayed person some sense that things are changing, things are growing, it's safe, and it makes it easier for someone like me to help process the past. So I try to work with the present. If there's a brush fire, the firefighters don't go to the middle. They start at the edges and get to the middle. So sometimes we got to make sure it's safe here before we go into the past traumas. But ultimately, what we want from the betrayed person is to be self-led. In other words, their self is clear. They're not the parts of them that are protective, the parts that have been activated. I'm not good enough. I'm unsafe. They get processed so that you are now, even if I'm working individually, I'll do this, so that you are now more connected to your intuitive places. Where we can help you heal those protective parts, you are able to now be intuitive. And your intuition might say, this person is not trustworthy yet, or this person probably won't ever be trustworthy, or this person is becoming trustworthy because you are not being governed by protective parts, but by yourself. We call that a self-led life, And so this is what it looks like for you as a person who was betrayed, is you just have this clarity. And even though maybe there's still that part of you that goes, it's hard to jump all in with this person. Intuitively, it's time. It's time to take that chance. Time to take responsibility for jumping in, because this person who did betray me, who did this hurtful thing, who had this secret, has worked on themselves enough to know that now I am safe. And again, what this new relationship would look like is you're doing that work, but the person who betrayed you is doing that same work. And you have what we call a self-led relationship or self-led marriage, where both people's selves are running the show. It's not perfect. We have these parts that flare up, but with awareness, we catch it, we notice it, we have a relationship with it. One of the things that EMDR does, it helps you have a deeper relationship, the self to your parts. And what happens is you get more integrated. The parts don't take on a life of their own, and they serve their agenda, but at the expense of other parts' agendas, or that healthy self that wants to have that good relationship. In a nutshell, what we're doing here with IFS and EMDR, internal family systems, and eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, is we're helping the person who's betrayed, and hopefully the one who did the betrayal, to be run by your highest version of yourself. Being kind and compassionate and welcoming to the parts of you that try to protect you, but they're not running the show. And we're also helping you heal the wounded, exiled parts so that they don't take up space anymore in the present, because you have moved past the past issues, memories, traumas. So now you're making decisions based on what's true right now. And remember, I mentioned intuition. I want to repeat myself. You're being intuitive. You're tuning in as the person who was betrayed to how safe am I really right now, given the situation. And you get in touch with the person who's betrayed has the parts from the past, but even parts from the present. That, the part that's angry, the part that wants to punish, the part that wants to make this relationship work, the part that loves you and I want to make it work no matter what, the part that doesn't want to be like the fool. There's all these parts. But ultimately, we do what's truly best from your highest version of yourself, which in internal family systems, they call it the self. So that new marriage looks like two people that can connect, that can be open, that can communicate, that are not afraid to be vulnerable, yet being able to self-soothe. I want to invite you to a workshop that is going to help you be self-led. And it's called the Infidelity First Aid Kit program. So it's a wonderful place to start, or even if you've been dealing with this, it's a great place to start your healing. And it's powerful and packs a good healing punch. And the name is Infidelity First Aid Kit. That's what it does. So check that out, please. And it's as difficult as it is to deal with betrayal. Healing is very possible. And I've helped people, especially using these kinds of tools, to heal from infidelity and then have better lives and have more connected relationships with themselves and hopefully even their partner. Again, this is Todd Krieger. Thanks for listening, making the world safe.
That's it for today's episode of Let's Talk About Love, Sex, and Infidelity podcast with your host, Todd Krieger. For free resources and materials, head over to toddkrieger.com. Loved this episode? Head over to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you.